And there is our recording. It's just beginning now. Uh, Quick cover of our agenda. Ted will kick us off into the presentation, but we've got an overview of our project and our project goals. We'll do a quick recap of our existing conditions. Ted will go off and present to you our sidewalk concepts, the main event. We'll cover next steps and then stay to the end for Q&A and discussion. With that, I will turn it over to you, Ted, for
All
our
right.
presentation.
Okay, thanks, Marta. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. So to give everyone a quick set of same information before we share the concepts. The project limits for this project are North Capitol Street between Massachusetts Avenue and Michigan Avenue. And that includes a number of intersecting streets as well. So the intersection with Rhode Island and New York and Florida are all part of this project as well. This is a continuation of a previous phase, which looked at a deck over at T in Rhode Island, and then proposed some short-term recommendations for the corridor, which are currently with our design team. North Capitol Street is on the high injury network, Tier 1, which means it gets the highest rates of injury of all district streets, and DDOT is prioritizing those streets agency-wide for safety improvements. It's also a freight priority corridor, so it's a primary street that's used by freight in the district. And that's something we need to keep in mind with this project. And then the average daily traffic levels vary between 23,000 to 51,000, with heavier traffic on the northern sections of the project area. Our goals and tasks of the project are goals are to advance multimodal transportation improvements, enhance neighbor connectivity, improve pedestrian infrastructure. That will be a major focus of today's meeting, and then ensure safety for everybody on the road, regardless of how you get around. Task for the project, we are conducting traffic forecasting and modeling. We're developing concept designs to advance multimodal transportation improvements. We're preparing environmental documentation to make sure we're squared away from that perspective. And then at the end of the project, we will select a preferred alternative, and we will share more about implementation and then cost estimates at the end of the project. This is our project timeline. We kicked off the project last year at about this time. And then since then, we've been doing a lot of existing conditions analysis and observations. And we're sharing the draft concepts for this project kind of in two phases. The first phase we're doing today, which is we're sharing draft sidewalk concepts to some proposals to widen sidewalks on North Capitol between Randolph and Bryant, where the sidewalks really have the most needs. And then in a meeting early in the fall after the summer, we'll be sharing concepts for the full corridor and then also for key intersections along the corridor. And then at the end of the year, we'll have final concepts. So we've had a number of inputs to date. A number of these are on the project website that you can review. We have a whole big, long existing conditions report that covers traffic and from every single mode and historic information and all sorts of stuff that's in the existing conditions report. We also have a public space and public life study. We had a team kind of do site visits on North Capitol Street to really see how people are interacting with the space. And that's been a really valuable input that's informed our work, because that's important to see how people are actually using the street. We also did a road safety audit. That was an independent process. It's a process led by the Federal Highway Administration. And we did site visits, some of which were open to the public. Some of you may have attended those last year. And the RSA looks to identify problems, which then some will get referred to this project, while others, if it's a maintenance or a trash issue, it gets directed to other agencies or other parts of DDOT. let me see. And then we also have we had our first public meeting last year. Um, we did one in person and one virtual where we talked to people about the issues and got a lot of feedback from there. And then we also have a community advisory committee, which is a group of community leaders. We have ANCs on there. We have bicycle, pedestrian, and multimodal accessibility advisory council representatives on there. Civic organizations, the NOMA bid, other groups, and we meet with the CAC to share uh, aspects of the project. Nothing that we, yeah, everything we share with the CAC, we also eventually share publicly as well. But it helps to have a smaller group to talk through some things sometimes. Next. So some of you may already know this. I know there's a lot of historians in the community who are interested in that. But for those of you who may not know, the current condition of North Capitol Street was built in the early 1960s. The purpose of the project was to increase the capacity of for drivers, and what that resulted in is the current conditions that we have today, which is the grade separated sections and narrowed sidewalks. This picture is North Capitol and T in 1959. So as you can see, everything is one level. The sidewalks are wider. It's a much different view than what is there today. So the sidewalks that we're focusing on today present a number of issues. First of all, they are far below DDOT standards of what we like to see for sidewalk width in communities. They are further narrowed by trees, light poles, sign poles, trash cans, other things that are on the sidewalk, scooters, bikes at times. And these present accessibility and safety challenges for pedestrians. You know, it's one thing if this is especially true if we have people who are in wheelchairs or or you know other people living with disabilities who need to get through our sidewalks, and they're either too narrow for them, and in some cases they will be in the roadway because if you're in a wheelchair and you can't get through, then some people will go in the street, and that is not acceptable. You know, and there's other practical things too. If you're passing somebody else, it's hard to do. If you're carrying groceries, it's not easy. If you're walking a dog, you know, it can be challenging. So, you know, there's a number of people who live in the neighborhood, and these sidewalks present challenges to all sorts of people. Another practical thing is because of the sidewalk width, we're not able to install amenities at bus stops, namely shelters. There just isn't space for them. And also where we have trees, where mature trees, and there's cracks in the sidewalks, and there's uneven sidewalks around those areas. So there's a number of issues that the current conditions of sidewalks present to residents. So this is a cross-section of existing conditions. For the underpass lanes, we have 2 in each direction. And then for the surface roadways, we have a travel lane and then a parking lane. And then the sidewalks are 6 feet width, but of course that includes tree boxes. Where there are tree boxes, it's even narrower. And this is one section. There may be other parts of the there may be other cross sections where these dimensions are a little bit different, especially on the sidewalk level. But that's what generally what we're working with on the corridor. So a picture of current sidewalk conditions. Again, a number of you, I'm sure, live around here and are already familiar with this, but these are pictures that we've taken on our site visits, and you can see a lot of the issues that I've already identified. And we have more pictures than just these that we're showing you right now. All right, so this is from DDOT's Design and Engineering Manual. I should note that this is for new construction. So if you were to go in and build a new roadway, this is what we would um, require you to put in for sidewalks. When we're doing retrofitting projects, we try to adhere to these as much as possible. Um, North Capitol between Randolph and Bryant is zoned for low to moderate residential density. So that line is what we would be looking at as far as standards for sidewalks on these blocks. And I should note that the minimum sidewalk width for ADA compliance is 4 feet. So our standards are mostly higher than that. All right. So today we're presenting a recommendation to widen sidewalks on North Capitol Street. As we mentioned, they're well below DDOT standards. This is a particularly tight example. I should note that widening sidewalks require significant impacts to curbside parking and trees. On one side, you have row houses. We're not touching those. So we only have one direction to go, and that direction is where the trees are and where the curbside parking is. We have two options of how to do that, which we'll be presenting. The first one is a full sidewalk widening. That would narrow the service street to an 11-foot lane with a 3-foot buffer. We would be preserving all larger trees, any heritage or special trees. We would be keeping, we're required to keep them by law. For a full sidewalk widening, the sidewalk would be at least 6 foot wide. We would be introducing new trees for consistent canopy coverage, and we'd be removing on-street parking. The second option, intermittent sidewalk widening, that narrows the service street to an 11-foot lane with a buffer. It preserves all larger trees. Those are the same for both options. For two, the sidewalk would be at least 4 feet wide. We'd be introducing new trees between parking spaces, which we'll show you what that looks like. And there would be a reduction in on-street parking, so there still would be some parking retained. This is what cross sections look like for option one. On the left-hand side, you see would be a new tree, and this is what it looks like with a tree that would be retained. And then option two is intermittent sidewalk widening, which is what that looks like. So basically, the curb line would not change where we'd be retaining parking, but it would come out where we'd be putting trees in. So that's what that looks like. And we have some street level renderings of what that would look like. For option one, the sidewalks would be widened to improve pedestrian comfort and access. The service street would be narrowed, and that would visually and physically narrow the roadway for drivers. There would be ample space for new trees to support a long-term healthy tree canopy, and we would have more space for shelters at bus stops. There's a number of other things that we need to meet to put a shelter in. But if we met the ridership levels and some other things, we would have the space to put in shelters at bus stops. Option two, again, retain some parking. That's what that looks like from street level rendering. Sidewalks would be widened to a minimum width. The service street would be narrowed. There would be additional trees on the corridor, not as much as in option one, but there still would be more trees. And then we would be preserving some on-street parking. And where we're preserving on-street parking, the sidewalks would be narrower to accommodate that. So we're going to go block by block, and in these slides, I'm not going to show you every single block, but if you have a question on a block that we don't show, we have slides for that, and we can certainly go to that. But I wanted to highlight a couple of blocks here to give you some examples of what this looks like. So this is S Street, Seton Place. This is option one. This is a full sidewalk widening. This is more on the southern area of the project, and this shows the trade-offs between parking and trees and widening the sidewalks. So The darker tree boxes are trees that are being retained. Those are those larger trees that we're required to keep. Um, and then the lighter tree boxes, those would be new trees. And then the red circles are trees that would be removed. And one thing with this project is we're looking for kind of long-term tree health and a long-term tree canopy. So, putting in new trees, they would need some time for them to grow. Um, so that's part of this project. One thing that I should note is for all of these slides, we have exact counts of what the parking impact is and what the tree impact is for all of them. But as we go through this project, um, those may change based on a number of things that could come up as we go through the design phase. So drainage concerns, utility concerns, tree health, some of these other things that are meant to be figured out in future design phases. We haven't done that yet. So I wouldn't get too hung up on exact numbers, but as we communicate this throughout the project, but if there's some utility issue, there may be small adjustments here and there that would happen to the numbers that we're presenting today. Another thing we haven't determined where light poles or signposts would go. That's in a future design phase. So there's more work to be done, but we do have exact numbers of what we're showing today. So that's option 1 for S and Seton. And this is what option 2 looks like. I should note that the tree boxes would be elevated and surrounded by curb. And we do have this location in some, this is not a common design for streets in the district. We do have it in some locations, some streets in Ivy City. There's a street in Capitol Hill that has this design. So there are some, this is not unprecedented, but not super common either. But you can see how the sidewalk changes to basically where we have to keep the sidewalk width to preserve the larger trees. We're not able to put parking there, but we are able to retain most of the parking, or about half of the parking on this block. All right, so moving up the block a bit to T and Todd. This is the full sidewalk widening. This chose this block to kind of show the impact of the mature trees on this block. And then this is option 2 with where we're preserving some parking. All right, moving to the block between Rhode Island and V Street. We should note that this block has a southbound right turn lane in the AM peak. In this option, that would all go down to 1 lane. And then this is option 2, where we're preserving some parking. All right, and then moving to the last block that we're showing through here. And again, if one of the blocks that we're not showing, we have renderings for all of them. And if you want to, we're happy to pull them up in the question and answer. But for this one, so the service roadway ends at W Street on the southbound side. So between W and Bryant, widening the sidewalk requires removing a travel lane, and we don't have the traffic analysis for that yet. So we're only showing the northbound side of the street from W to Adams. And this is adjacent to the cemetery. So that's what that looks like for a full sidewalk widening. And then this is what it looks like if we preserve some parking, actually most parking. All right. So this is a total count of parking and trees under each option. For existing, there are 125 curbside parking spaces on Rhode Island, on North Capitol Street, between Randolph Place and Bryant Street. There are 125 curbside parking spaces, and there are 61 trees. Under option 1, there would be 16 parking spaces, and those are only on the southbound side of the street between W and Bryant, where we're not making any changes to the curbside. Everywhere else, we wouldn't be able to accommodate curbside parking because we're widening the sidewalks. We would be able to put in 131 total trees. So that includes um, all the existing trees that we're retaining and then all the new trees. For option two, this is the option where we're preserving about 2/3 of the parking would be preserved. Um, so option two has 89 parking spaces total, and then 123 trees. So not as many trees as under option one, but still doubling the tree canopy under option two. So like I said, today we're only showing the sidewalk concepts between Randolph and Bryant, but we are looking at the whole corridor, and we'll be back after the summer to share those full concepts. And some of the things that we're looking at is we're looking at the curbside lane for the whole project. Right now, it's a rush hour travel lane. There's off-peak parking lane. So we're looking at that lane and see if there are other uses that we could put there. Looking at the service streets or grade separated areas, which we presented to you today. We're looking at improving green space and the center median, where we have it. We're looking at bus reliability, how we can improve options for bus riders. And then we're looking at the bike network. North Capitol Street is not itself on the bike priority network. So for this project, we'll be looking at crossings and helping people to get across North Capitol Street. So those east-west movements. All right. Oh, excuse me. So we have a survey up. This is a QR code link for the survey. We also have it on our project website. It will stay open until Friday, July 17th. So if we'd like you to put your comments in there and provide feedback on the sidewalk expansion concepts. We will also be out in the community this summer at community events sharing the sidewalk concepts. I should note that we haven't identified those yet. So if you have suggestions on things that are happening in the summer that you think we should attend, we would love to hear those suggestions as well. So please let us know. We'll be back after the summer to present draft concepts for the full corridor and then key intersections, and then final study documents will come towards the end of the year with cost estimates. And I should note that future phases depends on funding, which we haven't yet identified fully and haven't fully phased, but that's next steps. I should note the project website. The slides are on the project website. There's a link to the survey that's on the website. So that's there right now for you to look at. And the recording of this meeting will also be there in the next few days. So we're going to go into the question and answer section. But a quick reminder, there's the raise your hand function if you'd like to speak during the meeting. And then you can also use the question and answer and the chat functions. So Marta, I'll turn it over to you to go through the question and answer period of the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted. Great presentation. We have quite a few questions in the chat, so I'd love to start there. I think the first question came from Tyler Lopez. There aren't any traffic calming measures in place for southbound lanes in this corridor, with trees often serving as the only line of defense between speeding or reckless drivers and pedestrians on the sidewalk. Is there any way to install bollards or rails in addition to sidewalks in high-speed locations or to try to calm traffic? Basically, essentially, the question is looking at additional traffic calming measures for which is definitely a theme for the whole corridor. I can turn it to you, Ted, if you want to speak more specifically. The focus today, really, though, Tyler, is the sidewalks at these locations on these blocks that Ted presented.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get. There we are. Come on. let me cycle back to the cross sections here. So today we have, there we are. So today we have um, the uh, the surface roadways are 20 feet wide, and if there isn't parking, if there isn't a car parked there, that looks pretty wide for one lane. Um, so what we would be doing under these two options, under this one, we'd be narrowing that curb to curb dimension from 20 feet to 14 feet. And the reason why we need to keep a minimum of 14 feet is because if there's a fire truck that comes on the, if there's a fire or an emergency situation, and the fire truck needs to stop and they need to deploy their ladder. They need 14 feet of width because they have these little stabilizers that come out of the truck. Um, so it's not so much for the truck moving, but it's if the truck needs to set up and actually extend the ladder. And we hope there's never a fire on North Capitol Street, but if there is, we do need to keep that width for the fire truck. So, but under option one, it would be reduced to one travel lane. There'd be a 3-foot painted buffer. We could look to see if there are, um, flex posts. We could also see if we could maybe at intersections narrow that down to 11 instead of the 14. So that's something that we could look into. And then under option two, the road would be narrowed for tree boxes. It still would be that 20-foot dimension where there's a parking space, but that wouldn't be for the whole block as we're showing even under option two. So either way, the surface roadway would be narrowed, and because it's narrowed, cars going through there, it would be less likely for them to speed because the roadway is narrower. So, as far as if there's additional things we could do, we can certainly look at that as this project advances. But already narrowing the surface roadway would have an impact to calm traffic, regardless of the option that we choose.
Thanks, Ted. And Tyler, I saw you gave us a thumbs up, and I'm recognizing you have your hand raised. So I'll give you I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you feel like your question has been answered fully, or if there's any additional parts to your question. You
Sure.
are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for holding this meeting. I really appreciate it. I live on North Capitol Street on one of the service lanes just south of W Street, and it's right where the exit to Rhode Island begins at least. And we've had vehicles strike our house. We've had multiple vehicles end up on the sidewalk, and speed is always a huge factor. So my concern there was that, the northbound lanes have the speed cameras and whatnot, but there's nothing on the southbound lanes. We also had a car strike a tree and kill it right in front of our bus stop, which has no bus shelter. And the only thing stopping it from hitting 4 kids who were waiting for the bus was the tree that was killed. So I appreciate seeing the number of trees that are in the plan, and I think that's fantastic. And I really, really love the plan with the widened sidewalks. I think option one was the one specifically for our little exit ramp area. So I'm not sure if you could take that into account. We also have unzoned parking in front of our house for the off-peak hours that you mentioned. And I would advocate just getting rid of it altogether if that's possible.
Thanks very much for your comments, Tyler. We are certainly taking notes on feedback that we hear today at this meeting. You're also welcome and encouraged to utilize the survey form if you want to elaborate further on any comments that are or you leave today with some additional thoughts you want to share. So I just want to make a quick plug for that. We will go to the next person. I'm going to go back to our chat. Try to go to the top here. And there are a lot of comments. Um, Similarly, Ned Russell, this question had been answered, so I will move ahead. But the question was about options to reduce the number of vehicle travel lanes on North Cap. We just covered that one, so I'll go to Thaddeus, who is asking about effects on disabled parking spots. There are 3 on Seton Northwest to T, and also effects for St. Martin's Church that uses in excess of Seton Place to Rhode Island. I don't know that I captured the last part of that, Thaddeus. So let me raise your hand if you want to unmute. But we can talk quickly about disabled parking spots and kind of the parking impacts at those locations.
I can jump in if you all would like for me to.
Yeah, sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
let's go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, so effect on disabled parking spots. So, I mean, the goal wouldn't necessarily be to remove disabled parking spots. We would in the options where we are still keeping some parking, then some of those spaces may remain disabled spots. But I think that's something that would kind of be more looked at, further down into the future. And then what was the other part of the question?
Parking
We're looking at
for
specific blocks,
churches.
but
Oh, what did you say, Martin? I'm looking at it right now. Effect on parking for St. Martin Street that uses an excess of. Yeah, so that's actually a really great question as far as parking on there. Like I said, in some of these options, parking wouldn't be completely removed, but in places where it is kind of reduced, then it would be it would be a situation of where you might have to consider other places to consider parking. Yeah.
all right. Thank you guys. Next question from Julia. And the question is about the type of parking that's being reduced or eliminated in these options. Can we speak to
Yeah.
how these parking spaces are regulated and signed?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
Oh,
Yeah, I can respond to that. So I think for this, if if for option 2, if a block is currently RPP, I think we would keep it RPP. If a block is not currently RPP, we could certainly explore changing that. Obviously, for the options where we're not putting in any parking at all, then that's kind of a moot point. But for the options where we can certainly increase RPP parking throughout this project, if that's a desire of the community. So that's something we can certainly consider.
Great, thanks, Ted. I'm gonna go next to someone with a hand raised. A Pray. Oh my gosh, my chats are coming in really high, quickly, and hide them so I can get my unmute going. Okay, so APRAY, I've just enabled you to unmute if you'd love to jump up and ask your question.
Yeah, I'm Angela Prentice Ray. I have a couple questions and a couple of comments. I have lived in DC on and off for a number of years. The impact of removing parking, for the most part, impacts the senior population. Not necessarily those who have reserves parking spaces, but those who are not, those individuals that aren't able to bike or bus. So I I think we need to take a more complete approach or complete look at the process. For example, we need a comprehensive look at north-south travel because that's always been the major factor in DC. From Maryland to Virginia and back. There are 4th Street, 1st Street, North Capitol, those are major commuting areas. For example, when 4th Street got closed off at Florida Avenue, that traffic didn't go away. It just moved over to 1st. So we don't want to play a shell game by making North Capitol a slower street and then just moving the problem to another street. So there, the parking for another point about relative to the parking is the parking actually provides a buffer between a pedestrian and people coming through. So these are more comments than questions, but I think my point is that we really need to take a more comprehensive view, because that would just move traffic to someplace else. Parking is important, and we should take all citizens, all taxpaying citizens, into consideration. And especially with regard to north-south travel, when we closed off 4th Street, traffic came to first. Not only that, but it made Rhode Island Avenue more of a gridlock at rush hour, and that's an emergency escape route. So I really would like to see the comprehensive plan, because otherwise it looks like we just keep moving problems from one location to the other. And quite frankly, and I live on 1st Street, I mean, we've had at least a half a dozen cars end up on the sidewalk. We don't want to move more traffic from one street to another. That's my comment.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you for your
So,
comments, Ms. Angela. Go ahead, Ted. I'll let you
yeah,
take
so
this.
I can respond to that. So thank you for that comment. So one thing about what we're presenting today, other than in the AM peak between Rhode Island and V, or I'm sorry, Rhode Island and W, those two blocks, the southbound direction, there is a right turn lane that's only during the AM peak. So for most of the day, for most of these blocks, we're not taking away any travel lanes. There is impact on parking, there is impact on trees, but as far as the impact on traffic for most of the day, everything that we're presenting today doesn't impact traffic. Not to say there aren't any impacts, period. Certainly, even a reduction in parking, which these two options both have. We know that there's impacts on that for the community, for people who do need that curbside parking. But we are looking at this project from all different perspectives, and I think where we are today with this project is the sidewalks, like not doing nothing to the sidewalks and just saying, well, the I think we're really compelled as an agency to do something to improve the sidewalks. So we presented two options for that. Certainly, there might be some some compromises or some other things that we could potentially consider. We've heard other things about, well, maybe you could do option 1 on some blocks and option 2 on other blocks. One thing we wouldn't want to do is do a thing where we're like, the first block option 1, second block option 2, first block option 1. We'd kind of want to make it a little more consistent and not go back and forth the whole time. But certainly that's why we're here, is we want to hear what the public thinks about this, what ideas you have, what concerns you have, and then everything that we hear, both today and then through the survey responses in the next few weeks, and then out in the public that will be out in the summer. That'll all go into the evaluation and the decision-making process of what ends up coming out of this project. So thank you for being here today. And we appreciate your comment.
Thank you for your response. I just respectfully ask that you take into consideration the demographic here.
Sure.
And the impacts of what's happened on other streets as well. Thank you, Dick.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to the next question, that I wanted to just also reiterate, while today we're focused on sidewalk expansions, as Ted mentioned, we will be returning to the public to present other concepts for North Capitol Street, including traffic and concepts that look at our traffic more holistically along the corridor and conditions holistically, including our intersections and turn lanes. So there's a couple of other questions that looked at diversions or left turn lanes and signals, and more to come at a later stage in the project. Today we're primarily interested in and we're happy to take your comments now, but I do want to, the focus for today's conversation is to get feedback on the options presented for sidewalk expansion. All right, and with that, I'll go to the next person. We have folks in the chat. I'm gonna go to Julia. How would option 2 solve the problem with sidewalks being too narrow for wheelchairs, runners, crashing into cyclists, etc.? So this might be a good option, Ted, if you can scroll back to
Yeah,
one of the visuals for option 2 and talk through that a little bit further.
sure. So, yeah, I think option one, the full sidewalk expansion, gives us more space for pedestrians. It gives us more space for trees. It gives us more space for um, excuse me, for bus stops. And you're right. Option two, preserving some parking, does require some trade-offs with the width of the sidewalk and the amenities that could be there on the sidewalk. We would maintain at least a 4 foot width. So there would be a minimum, but sure. From a perspective of somebody on the sidewalk, um, option two would feel tighter than option one. It still would be an improvement from what's there today, but from a perspective of somebody who's only concerned about the sidewalk, option one is certainly a a uh, a better choice from that perspective.
Great. And we had I got a note from Thaddeus who wanted to clarify an earlier question. So I will ask him to just unmuted you, Thaddeus, if you'd like to, you're able to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Marta. Just in terms of the disabled parking spots, I know that several of them can be variable depending on the resident that lives there. So kind of projecting into the future for accommodating either those that exist currently or say that resident departs and then no longer needs that space, but if that were to be maintained, say with option two, where there had been a cutout for that individual, but then that individual relocates and you have someone move in there who is no longer needing a handicap parking space. How is that kind of being considered, that variability of a disabled parking space?
So I think for option two, if that's what we went for, we would preserve those disabled parking spaces as much as possible. And then if someone no longer needs the parking space that has been designated for them under that program, then it would just go back to a parking space that anybody could use. And if it's an RPP space, they need to be RPP. But it would be just like any other block where we have those, where where somebody has it until they no longer need it for whatever reason.
Got it. Thanks, Ted. And then I guess the converse would be is if someone who resided in a spot where that bump out or that, I guess, converse of a bump out existed, that person would just need to accommodate themselves and really not be eligible to have a disabled parking spot in front of their home.
I mean, they would go through the regular process. I think it depends on the timing of when they ask for it. If there's a specific space that you're concerned about, I'm happy to follow up with you on that. But I think we would, through this project, if option two is what's end up we move forward with, we would accommodate those reserved disabled parking spaces as much as possible. I mean, for example, let's say for this block between T and Todd on that southbound side, let's say there's 3 today, and here we're only showing 1, and we're ultimately only able to fit 1. I frankly don't know what the process would be as far as which one of the 3 we would choose and what we would do with the other two, I honestly don't know. But those are things that we would work through through the design phase of the project. And of course, those are always moving targets because that might be the issue now, but by the time we get down to construction, the needs for disabled parking spaces on a specific block, may be different. So we would work to accommodate those. If we are choosing option 2, we would work to accommodate those existing spaces as much as possible. In most cases, if we're looking at this block between Rhode Island and V, I think we would be able to accommodate the. I doubt there's, 5. We've got 7 spaces here on the southbound. I doubt there's 7 spaces there today. So for the most part, we should be able to accommodate those under option 2. But I think it's something that we would confirm in further design phases.
Got it. Thank you. And apologies if I was belaboring the point, but
That's
thanks,
okay.
Ted.
All right, there looks to be a good discussion in the chat. We'll return to the chat shortly. I'm gonna go to someone who's raised their hand and patiently waiting, Christy B. You should now be able to unmute.
Hi, thank you for holding this meeting and giving people a chance to provide input. I live on a side street 2 houses in from North Capitol, and I don't have a car, so I walk and bike everywhere and am on North Capitol almost every day. So I'm wondering what your considerations are for cyclists. Your rendering shows a cyclist biking on the street, but for anyone who has biked on North Capitol before, they know that's extremely unsafe with how fast people drive. So I'm wondering, in your 2 options, are cyclists assumed to ride on the sidewalk?
So under currently today, because we're out of the downtown core, cyclists are able, allowed to ride on the sidewalk. That's the law. Of course, that's pretty impractical on North Capitol Street today. So if we widen the sidewalks, there would be more space, and if a cyclist wanted to, there would be more space for them to do so. As far as North Capitol Street, this project specifically, again, North Capitol Street itself is not on the bicycle priority network, so this project will not be including bicycle lanes on North Capitol Street, but we are looking at where we can help east-west connections of getting cyclists across North Capitol Street. So I mean, under this version, there would be less space for all sidewalk activities, including biking. So
Can I just make one follow-up comment
Sure.
on that?
Yeah.
So related, I understand the desire to keep heritage trees. Like I love the big trees in DC, especially like the oaks. But I just don't think it makes sense to keep the mature trees at the expense of sidewalk continuity. Because if there are trees that are retained close to the row house and then new ones are added close to the road, then people need to weave in and out of those tree boxes rather than having trees in one continuous line on the side closest to the road. And that also will help provide a barrier between cars and pedestrians.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment. As far as the larger trees or the heritage and special trees, we are required by law to keep them. That used to be a law that only applied to developers, but it's since expanded where DDOT is now under that law. So if we have a heritage or a special tree in the sidewalk, we need to keep it and we need to build around it. I understand that, especially, which is why I included this block from T to Todd to show that that is a significant. The trees are obstacles. I will say that through the design, if a tree, if one of those trees is when we get down to construction, we would do assessment of those trees. Our arborists are always doing assessments of these trees, and if we identify a heritage tree or a special tree that is not in good condition, then it can come down. But if it's a larger tree in good condition, we do need to keep it. We are required by law to keep it, and we do need to work around it. And that's something that we would look as far as through design. Again, we're really early. This is concept design, but in the design phase, we would look through as far as like how can we minimize or mitigate those those larger trees as obstacles as much as possible. Maybe we would not put for this northbound block. Maybe we wouldn't put the 2 trees on either side, the new trees. Maybe we wouldn't put those in. There's some things that we could do to consider and to accommodate the issue that you've identified. So thank you for bringing that up. But it is something that we do ultimately need to work around because of the law.
Thanks for that response.
Thank you. We'll go next to Granette. I hope you're pronouncing your name correctly. You are now able to unmute.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to see if you could repost either put it in the chat or the link for the survey. It moved rather quickly. And so I wondered if you could either put it in the chat or just put it back up on the screen. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's the QR code. Also, if you're a kind of person who doesn't like QR codes, and that's perfectly fine. If you go to the website, there's a link to the survey on the website as well. So you can either do the QR code or access the survey through the website.
And I got the link for the survey, so I'm going to just drop it in the chat. If you're more link inclined. Okay. Thank you. Go back to the chat, and I'm scanning. I'm going to just read some of these comments. They're not exactly questions, but
Okay.
going to just share them out loud, Ted. We need a North Capitol Street that serves the needs of the neighborhood today and the future. That is a North Cap that meets the needs of pedestrians, bus riders, anyone in a wheelchair, strollers, not cars. Parking is necessary sacrifice to realize that vision. That's one comment from Ned Russell. Another comment also endorsing wide sidewalk. Comments about demographics along the corridor. So we will save these comments as part of our transcript. So thank you for everyone who's contributed. And also are sharing your testimonies in the chat. I think we spoke to Adrian, your question about trees. What options are there for trees that don't meet heritage status but over a decade established? Could they be moved to the new tree box?
Yeah. So we've talked with our. Let me respond to that. So we've talked with our with our arborists about this, and their perspective is the long-term health of trees on North Capitol Street. So I think they if there is a tree that is not a heritage or a special tree, they are open to those coming down, so that we can replace them with again, either option will expand the tree canopy. And of course, this is, trees take time to grow, and if we have a tree that is a healthy tree but not a heritage or mature tree, certainly there would be some trade-offs in the shorter term or the medium term, taking that tree down, planting new trees, and then having the new trees mature. And sometimes a new tree is planted and needs to be replanted. But the long-term perspective, either of these options would improve the tree canopy, and under option one, there would be more space for trees. One thing that we could do under option one is because we don't have because option one doesn't have curbside parking, instead of individual tree boxes, we could explore putting in a green strip there. So there would be a lot more green space, so residents, again, it would still be public space, but residents who live in front of there, if they wanted to plant flowers, or the DDOT wouldn't maintain those things, but that's something that they could do. I know that some other neighborhoods, people sometimes do that. So that's an option that we could look at under option one, is putting even more green space in there than what we're showing today. We did want to show this so that we could get an exact count of trees, which again, as we're moving through the design phase, that may need to change a little bit as drainage or other impacts are further understood. But again, either option does add trees to the corridor, and so again, they're shorter term. I understand losing it may not be a heritage or special tree, but it's a beautiful, healthy tree, and taking that down and waiting for the new trees to grow, not great, but from a long-term perspective, it would improve the tree canopy.
Thank you, Ted. All right, I'm coming to Jake Lynch. You can unmute. I saw you also have a question in the chat, so you've got the floor.
Great. Hey, thanks for hosting this. I think it's been a really productive conversation. Of course, I think having wide sidewalks is a great thing. And I'm a proponent of wide sidewalks and more trees. But one of the things I noted in my chat was the area northbound, at least, going between T Street and Randolph, does not have alleyways behind the houses. So there's very limited ability to park. I know my neighbors have cars, and we rely on that car. The closest grocery store is like a mile or more away. And I just think that, when we're weighing these options, we have to think about the people that use this corridor every day, or also the people that live on North Capitol Street and rely on the ability to park. So just want to put that out there and kind of ask the question: if we take away parking, or at least greatly reduce the spaces, what can we do for the North Capitol residents that don't have parking behind their house, or ability to park if they're handicapped?
Yeah, thanks for that. So, you're right that there are those few blocks on the northbound, or the east side of the street, where those houses don't have alley access on those blocks. That's something we're certainly aware of. And there are things that we could do. We could potentially expand RPP throughout the neighborhood to make sure that residents have more place to park. So that could be a potential option that we could explore. And there's other things that we could consider. But I understand that option one does have a pretty big parking impact, and there are some residents who would that would not be ideal from their perspective. But I think when we manage these projects, we have to think about the everybody in the neighborhood and how everybody gets around, and realizing that sometimes when we do these projects, individual results for residents vary. Some people are very happy with what we do. Some people are very unhappy with what we do. And we don't do things maliciously. We're not thinking, oh, how can we screw these residents over. And we really do try to make improvements for everybody as much as possible. But it's just the nature of these projects where some residents experience different things from the outcomes of this project. We do intend, and our goal is that overall these projects have a positive impact on residents and the community as a whole. And where there are residents that their experience of these projects being implemented is more negative than positive, we try as much as possible to mitigate those impacts and to come up with ways to help things out as much as we can. So thank you for highlighting that. That's something that we're certainly
Yeah,
aware of, and
I appreciate that, Ted, and I also appreciate that you're aware of it because I mean it's a pretty big deal for the people that actually live on North Capitol Street between those blocks.
yeah.
It's a huge deal. And I, I I think that it needs to be evaluated further for the people that are going to be impacted. And if there's, I would love to follow up with you after about making sure that the neighbors on the areas that don't have alleyway access for parking are made aware of any changes. Like I found out about this meeting through a flyer on the door, but neighbors might not know that aren't participating that there's going to be no parking in front of their house and there's no parking behind their house, and then it makes it much more difficult for them to get around.
Yeah. Well, I should note that we haven't made any final decisions, and there's still time for people to learn about this project and for people to share their thoughts. So, the survey will be open for 3 weeks. And we'll also be out in the community. And if there's a event that you think that we should be at, certainly, please let us know. So today
And
is
Ted, just
the
real quick,
sure.
also curious, what are the potential options if parking gets reduced? What are the options for people that rely on street parking?
I mean, I think the primary option is looking to expand RPP in the neighborhood.
Okay. And there wouldn't be any kind of expansion of parking elsewhere or some kind of way to make it so that the residents that don't have parking, behind their house that rely on parking here would have some kind of recourse or way forward.
I mean, one thing about those blocks is I know, especially between, they're pretty narrow blocks between the east-west streets between North Capitol and Lincoln Road. So we have standards as far as how far parking can be from an intersection. So we're not going to change those where people can park closer because that's a safety issue. As far as finding blocks that don't have curbside parking, I think those are pretty exhausted. That's the primary thing is looking to see where we can expand RPP in the neighborhood. If you have
Gotcha.
suggestions on a block that doesn't have curbside parking where we should consider it, you can
I'll
certainly let us
definitely
know.
let you know if that comes up. Yeah, just want you to keep that in mind as the proposals go forward, that there's at least several blocks northbound that rely on this kind of parking. So that's it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Gonna go next to Sandrine. Sandrine, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. This is great. Thank you so much for connecting with the community on this. We live on North Capitol Street as well. Um, I was wondering if DDOT had considered we're more of a proponent of option one, for
Okay.
safety, for connectivity, for strollers, holding, side by side pedestrians, like holding children's hand or holding elderly family walking up and down the street, connecting to Macmillan Reservoir Park, connecting to Crispus Attucks Park, connecting to Harry Thomas Park, and then the east-west connectivity is super, super important. One question I had was, has DDOT considered, for example, putting a 15-minute one parking spot, 15-minute parking spot for per block, for example, for deliveries, to drop someone off, to pick someone up, for trash pickup, for things like that. I've seen this in other cities where they have, expanded sidewalks, but they have one drop off and pickup zone along the block. Over, thanks.
Yeah, that's something. So it's basically mostly option one, but maybe instead of, but only kind of one space per block. That's something that we can certainly consider. Uh, so yeah. So yes, that's something we can certainly consider for this project.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, and next hand raise I see is Kemi. So I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Hi, am
Kemi?
I, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Great.
Great. Hi, I just wanted to echo the sentiments of the previous person who spoke about parking. I'm a resident. I live at the intersection of North Capitol and T Street. A lot of the homes that we have here have been converted. So they're no longer single family homes. Some units have 2, 3, 4, but they're multiple units. And you have units who each have cars. I know that DDOT is also planning on doing bike lanes on Lincoln Road, which is going to impact parking. And I'm not sure if there's been, and forgive me, I missed the beginning of the presentation, if there has been full community awareness on what's happening and what the impact is going to be. I personally do not think that RPP is a solution. We need the parking spaces. I'm all for beautification. I understand that, some of these walkways are narrow, but I think that's a major impact if we get rid of parking, especially because DDOT is also talking about parking lanes as well. So, for those of us who are residents, you have owners who are here, you have renters who are here, we have cars. We also have people like guests who come and visit. I don't want the experience to be so cumbersome that folks don't want to come around because it's all RPP. Or if you're someone who has an out of license, or rather out of state license plate, can you even get RPP? So I just, I really implore you guys to think about the effects of us residents, and how it pertains to parking and just, being comfortable. I don't want to park or have friends park 3 blocks away because we're so limited.
Thanks for that. I should note the Lincoln Road project is ongoing, and they haven't shared their latest concepts, so they're still working on those. We are coordinating with that project, and we do keep each other updated as our projects advance. And they're not ready. They don't yet have concepts that are ready to be shared publicly. They're still we're still reviewing them internally. But we are in contact with that team and aware of that project. And I do want to thank you for that comment. And we understand that parking is an important asset for the community. And any loss of parking is again for some residents not ideal. And again, it's something that we manage all aspects of these projects and all the needs of everybody throughout the community. And again, when we make decisions on these projects, we recognize that some residents are affected in different ways. And we wish that wasn't the case. I've been looking at my desk every day for a magic wand that makes everything easy, and still haven't found it. So we do know that there are trade-offs with these projects, whatever we propose, and we try to minimize those as much as possible. But yeah, but thank you for your comment. And I will admit that a loss of parking for people who rely on that curbside parking is certainly an impact. But we try to manage these projects as much as possible, and aware of everybody's needs for the public space, whether it's parking or whatever it is. So thank you for the comment, and thank you for being on the meeting today.
I also have one other question in terms
Sure.
of polling residents and those of us in the community. How is that done, and what are the numbers? What are the metrics? How many people did you poll? What is the percentage of folks who've said we want to do this? Because just like another person said, I only heard about this because I got a flyer, so I missed whatever the public meeting number 1 was. How are residents being informed of what's happening? Because I don't think it's kosher if all of a sudden we wake up and work is being done and folks have not had an opportunity to voice their support or their disapproval of what's happening. So is this something that's being solely determined by DDOT? And what are the metrics? Like what are the residents saying in terms of, well, overwhelmingly people don't want this, or overwhelmingly people do?
Yeah,
You can
well,
jump in, Ted. Or,
yeah, well, let me address this.
sure.
So we are sharing this with the public today. So the survey is open today for the first time. So as far as what residents have commented on from what we're presenting today, we're sharing it just now. So this is the beginning of the process as far as sharing these concepts and getting comments on them. We're not going to be doing construction. The survey is going to be open for a couple of weeks, and we're not going to be doing construction the day after the survey closes. There will be a lot more time to review what we heard. Again, like I said, we're going to be out in the community in the summer. And again, we would like suggestions on events that are happening where we can take the show on the road. So if you have suggestions on that, please let us know. But this is the beginning of these conversations and not the end. And then we're going to have another meeting in the fall where we're presenting full draft concepts. So there's a lot more to come as far as opportunities for the public to weigh in and for us to hear from them.
Okay, thank you. And that's the QR code that's on the flyer where we can find the survey.
The flyer was for information for today's meeting. If you go to, let me skip ahead to, that is the QR code for the survey itself, and it's also on our project website. So
okay, great.
Two ways to get to the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Gonna elevate a comment we have here.
Sure.
Or really a question from Jake Hecker. Can we expect similar design options for portions of North Capitol Street with higher density land uses? For example, parts of the study area that are closer to New York Avenue, higher density shops, apartments would have different DDOT standards. Great question, Jake.
Yeah, that will be coming. Full concepts for the entire corridor will be coming at a meeting in the fall. But today we're focusing on the sidewalks on North Cap between Randolph and Bryant.
Great. We got a couple more hand raises. So,
Sure.
and I think no new hand raises. So I'm returning back to Angela. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate and support the comments of the last caller. That's an example of impacts to individuals in different respects. When in any city, when there is uh, traffic planning, there's usually a comprehensive plan. So I would really like to see statistics around how it impacts residents in that area. Because if you take away parking, it does devalue your home. If you can't, if you sell in a house that has no parking. But more importantly, there are major north-south thoroughfares here in DC. And if you slow down one, you impact the others. So I'd like to see the results of any study that shows what slowing down North Capitol does to the other north-south thoroughfares. Thank you for my comment.
Sure, thanks for that. As far as traffic impacts, I would say, again, this what we're presenting today, for the most part, other than that 1 a.m. Southbound right turn lane, for the most part, this doesn't impact travel lanes. It does impact parking, but not travel lanes. But we'll have full concepts for the full corridor, and also we'll be sharing how those designs will impact traffic at the upcoming meeting. So I would hope you're at our meeting in the fall, where we'll have that information to share and talk through.
Thanks, Ted. Going to Huma, you are up next.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks again for having this meeting. Really appreciate you going through all these comments. As well, I think one thing I put it in the comments as well, but I think if you could share a little bit more about the impact. I think we talked about this at the CAC meeting, but about the impact this would have on bus speeds. I believe there was conversation that it might help actually improve bus speeds if we did option one. The other thing I think would be really helpful to lift up is the amount of, and there's been some conversation about statistics. I think if you could also share the amount of pedestrian conflicts that we've had. When I say conflicts, I mean crashes involving pedestrians, which is, as you know, we've had unfortunately fatalities on the stretch. We've had really, really just terrible accidents that I think many of us have witnessed firsthand or have been near, have had this happen to us directly. We've been almost run over by a car or not able to cross the street safely. So would in the next meeting would appreciate you also sharing those. But if you could talk a little bit about the impact this would have on bus services, that would be really helpful. Thank you again
Sure.
for sharing this.
Sure. So the main impact that this project would have on buses, especially for option one, we would have more space to put in amenities at bus stops. So shelters is that main amenity. And right now, we've seen that for people who are in wheelchairs who are trying to get on the bus, it's hard. It can be hard for them to load from the sidewalk, and sometimes they will do it in the street. So expanding the sidewalks will improve safety at bus stops and also provide more amenities at bus stops. Option two, we may be able to do that as well, but there's, because we're preserving some parking, there's less space for the sidewalk in general. So the options there may be somewhat limited, but we would do as much as we can to improve things for bus riders to make sure that they can get on and off the buses safely. That would be a bare minimum of option two, to make sure that people can make sure that if you're in a wheelchair, you'll be able to get on the bus through the sidewalk, which is what should be, instead of what we're observing today is some of those people are in the roadway, and that is certainly a safety issue that we want to prevent with this project.
Right. Thanks, Ted. Rick, you can unmute if you want to ask a question.
Hey, yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Again, I'll echo what everyone else said. Thank you for putting this on and putting together the slides and all the work done up to this point. I guess I had asked a couple times in the chat about what was going to happen a little bit further down the corridor. I think you for the most part, you answered that that's coming sometime in the fall. I guess my question though would be, since we are talking about widening sidewalks in this discussion, does that mean that what's coming in the fall to maybe the areas like Truxton Circle or Noma, who also kind of experience the same issues with North Capitol Street as it relates to pedestrian safety, does that mean that they're not going to be able to get any of the sidewalk widening that you're referring to here? I guess that's question number one, and I have a follow up, but I guess I'll stop there for now.
Yeah. So for the area on Truxton Circle right now, North Capitol Street is 3 lanes in each direction, and that curbside lane is off-peak parking and then a travel lane during the rush hour. So in order to widen sidewalks, we would have to take that curbside lane and do something and expand the sidewalks that way. So that requires doing traffic analysis to see, okay, what does North Capitol Street look like if during rush hour, instead of 3 lanes in each direction, it's 2 lanes in each direction. So we need to have traffic analysis before, and we're still in the process of doing that traffic analysis. We need to have that traffic analysis before we can say, okay, here are the impacts on North Capitol Street for going down from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, and if that traffic analysis supports making those improvements, then certainly we have that space where we can expand sidewalks, we can put in more trees, we can have curb extensions at intersections, we can do full-time loading zones, we can do whatever that block needs. We can do things with that space. But because that traffic analysis is still in process, what we're presenting today is the blocks where we don't need that level of traffic analysis to widen sidewalks. So that's why we're presenting what we're presenting today.
Okay, that kind of leads me into my next question, but I guess just to comment on that. So you mentioned that you're doing the traffic analysis, and I don't know where you are on that process, but I wonder if it's being taken into account that I think an earlier caller mentioned this. When you take the traffic out of one place, it doesn't go away; it just moves. So the issue, or maybe the concern that I'm having, is because we're making these efforts a little bit further north in the corridor. I mean, when I see traffic, it's mainly people waiting to make that right turn from North Capitol Street southbound onto New York Avenue. And that just backs up all the way down the corridor. Equally, you see it on First Street, because if they're worried about the traffic on North Capitol Street, then they go to First Street instead. And I honestly, what I'm imagining is going to happen is we're going to see an influx of that on both of those streets, mainly in the Truxton Circle area, if we're just doing the traffic, the sidewalk expansion a little bit further north. So I guess that would be one of my concerns first and foremost. But then I guess to my follow-up question that I've mentioned.
Well,
I'm
let
having a little bit
me
of trouble
let me
kind of
address that.
squaring this with the. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I want to make sure
No, you're fine.
I respond to all your questions, and I'm happy to let you continue. But I wanted to bring up your point about New York Avenue. So we're aware of the issues at New York Avenue. That's still under evaluation. But what we're presenting today doesn't impact the traffic at New York Avenue, because today we have curbside parking on these blocks. So there isn't traffic moving through at the blocks that we're talking about today because there's curbside parking there. And the curbside parking there is 24-hour parking. So you can park there even during rush hour. So repurposing that space from parking spaces to expanded sidewalks doesn't affect the movement of traffic at New York Avenue. So I would say for the full corridor and the New York Avenue issue, we're aware of it. It's something that we're evaluating, and we'll be presenting on that at the meeting in the fall. Okay,
that's a fair point. I guess my next question is, maybe it still bleeds into that a little bit. It's the kind of maybe pitting pedestrians against people who have cars and just are looking for a place to park. And I'm a little bit unclear on why we're why we're taking away the option of looking at modifying North Capitol Street so in a way that makes it flow a bit better. And so you can retain the parking, because I do think that having the parking on the side of the street is important as a buffer between pedestrians and the traffic, but that you can also expand the sidewalk, right? You could probably have both. I think the issue probably is the underpasses, and I don't know if that's something that we're taking a look at as part of this process. I know at one point it was part of a discussion. I'm not sure if that's changed or not. So I guess my question is this part of like an instructive, right? Are we purposefully looking at ways to increase safety for pedestrians without taking away lanes of traffic at the expense of parking?
So the areas where we're looking at today are the areas where the roadway is grade separated. And those existing conditions, this project is not looking at changes to the overall design of those grade separated sections. That could be something that could be evaluated in a future phase of a future project, is making those changes. But this project, and anything that we do as part of this project, would not preclude either the roadway being brought up to a grade in a future phase, or we know that there are some residents who instead support building a deck over on some of these blocks. So either the things that we're presenting today, those two options could still be pursued in a future phase. That doesn't prevent either of those. As far as trade-offs, I mean, the thing is, it's a matter of space. The sidewalks are what they are, and right now they are not, people are not able to get through them. I don't know how somebody in a wheelchair is supposed to get through the picture that I'm showing you today, and that's an existing condition.
Yeah. Oh, to be clear, I completely agree with the fact that the sidewalks need to be widened. I'm just looking at a long-term, considering some of the concerns that other residents have and taking them both into account. I think the third party that's kind of getting away scot-free is the traffic, right? And I don't know that necessarily anyone here that lives on North Capitol Street would be too angry if that traffic was diverted some other place, or if at the very least that traffic wasn't right in your face. And I think no matter where you are on the corridor, that's the case right now.
So you're saying that we should consider an option where we remove this travel lane on the surface roadways? Is that what you're asking?
No.
Okay.
No, it would be bringing everything to at grade. So that's an option that I think is viable, expanding the sidewalks, but also you would lose a lane of traffic, but it would be from the inner part. It wouldn't be from the outer. You need the outer because it's for local streets.
Right.
So obviously you can't get rid of that. But primarily because of the widening of North Capitol Street, and because you have that situation where you have it not at level grade, you essentially have an entire lane that's dedicated to concrete, right? And you kind of understand what I'm getting at there.
Well, like I said, this project, this current phase, is not proposing any changes to the overall overall grade separated sections.
Sure.
That could be something that could be included as part of a future phase. And you're right. If a future phase does propose bringing everything up to the same grade, then we may not need that median. We may be able to remove one. Those are conversations for a future phase of this project that is well beyond the tasks that we have in front of us this year. So
okay. I think that's it for me.
Okay.
I'll look out for the conversation in the fall.
Great.
Thanks for your comments. I'm taking a look to see if we have any other hand raises, and looks like Jake.
Hi.
You
Hi.
unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Ted, I was just wondering, could you just give us a quick recap on so this meeting is just this phase here for this particular section. When do you guys make
a decision on this particular section?
I think we would see what feedback we get from the summer, and then we would provide an update at the next public meeting, whether that is a final decision on this part or whether that's an update. I can't say at this point because we haven't had those conversations, but we would provide an update from what we presented at this meeting at the next meeting.
And what role does this survey play in that decision-making process?
I mean, this, public feedback is a crucially important part of everything that we do at DDOT. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're having this meeting and presenting this to the community. We need the community's feedback and comments to be able to make these decisions about what we're going to be doing. So it's a crucial part. As far as the survey is not a vote. We're not asking people to vote, and but it is, all the feedback that we're going to get from the survey, that we're going to get from anything we're at in the summer, emails that I get that are outside the survey, any other feedback from residents, it all is part of it, and it all is taken into consideration. So it's crucially important.
Great. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier is the opportunity to say, oh, here's an event that you can go to. And I was wondering if one of the events could be a door knocking campaign where we knock on the doors of residents along the impacted corridor and give them a brief update about what the proposals are and what they do.
Yeah, we could certainly consider that. I think we would prefer something that we get kind of a group of residents too. I mean, the thing about, door knocking is, you don't know if somebody's going to be home. You don't know if somebody's going to, somebody may welcome somebody knocking on the door, somebody may not. So, I think that's something we can certainly consider.
Absolutely. Or even a public awareness campaign that's not necessarily door knocking, but is actively providing the residents that live on the corridor with more information, because I think it was really helpful to sit on this meeting. I was informed through this pamphlet. Is there a way that I could formally request that these proposals are directly put in front of the residents?
I mean, that's the point of the meeting today. I mean,
sorry. I mean, like the actual printed versions of it, so that, because not everyone has joined. I saw there's about 36 people, but there's a lot more people that live along this corridor, many of which I didn't join. So they don't know the proposals.
I mean, we do these meetings, and, not everybody who lives on these corridor, always comes to these meetings. They're available on the website. I know I heard from some residents who were not able to make the meeting today. But I told them, the meeting will be, it's going to be recorded on YouTube, and we'll have that up on the website. These slides are up there right now on the website. The survey is available right now. Some people may want to review the meeting at a time that's convenient to them. So,
I don't doubt that. But if you're actively soliciting feedback for community awareness campaign and engagement, I think that this could be a really good option.
Yeah, sure. Again, we'll consider any suggestions. So if you have a suggestion, or anybody on the meeting today has a suggestion, we're certainly open to them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. And that's it for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, and I think there's two Jakes, and I'm trying to remember, that was Jake Hecker or Jake Lynch speaking, so you can lower your hand if you just spoke, and I'll call on the other Jake to unmute. All right, so Jake Hecker, you can come off mute. Jake, you there?
Marta, I think both Jakes lowered their hands, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Jake Hecker, if you have
Okay.
a comment, I believe you can unmute, but if not, we can move on to the next comment or question.
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
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 Sorry about that. Thanks so much, Ted and DDOT team, for presenting today. I'm very excited about these possible changes. I wanted to ask about the public space, public life report and how it talked about implementing better gathering spaces along North Capitol Street, and was wondering if there's any plans in this corridor to kind of implement those into some of the design, into either design 1 or design 2 that you presented today. So stuff like benches outside of the bus shelters, but also like lighting, and in general small scale spaces for folks to gather.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that question. So yeah, I will say that kind of beautification and public space improvements are kind of a secondary goal of this project. The primary goal is to improve safety and to improve multimodal access. But there certainly are opportunities to improve public space as well. So the public space and public life study, which the document is available on our website right now, it's been up there for a while. You're certainly welcome to look through it as much as you like. It does identify locations where we could make public space improvements. And there are things, if we're expanding intersections and making them, safer for pedestrians and putting curb extensions, in some locations there may be opportunities to make those public space improvements. So yeah, and the more that we, one thing about the option 1 is if more space for sidewalks does give us more opportunities to potentially put those in. So I think that's something that, as far as exact locations and exact treatments, are kind of further in design process. But it certainly is something that we've been considering for the whole project. So thanks for that.
Okay. And I don't see any more hand raises. So I want to just thank everyone for joining us today. Oh, I spoke too soon.
Sure.
Paul
No.
Johnson. Actually, here we go. Paul, I think you lowered your hand. Did you want to speak? I need you to raise your hand again. I lost you, Paul. I'm sorry.
Right. Do we have any other
Okay.
things in the chat or the question and answer, or anybody who's called in?
Not seeing anyone who's called in. In the chat, we have a lot of comments, and I can do a quick summary of some of these comments, but no more questions. We've addressed all questions. If we have not addressed your question, please flag it for me, but I'm spinning through and believe we've addressed everything. I will highlight and summarize some of these comments. I think there are some interesting points. One is for the transcript specifically, but making North Capitol a nicer place to exist will be a quality of life improvement for all residents. Don't think option 2 addresses the problems that the proposal is predicated on, and I don't think it meets the objectives outlined. Option 1, an expanded RPP in the neighborhood, is the forward-thinking proposal. That is one commenter's opinions.
Okay.
And we have another comment showing the opposite side, that they think the compromise of option 2 is a better solution for the full neighborhood. Again, today we're not necessarily asking for a vote. You're certainly welcome to share your opinions and your perspectives on options you like or adjustments you'd like to see and suggestions. it's not a majority rules kind of conversation, but your comments really do add to the thinking for what the community needs. So I do want to just share that. Expanding on this thought here, someone made a comment amplifying that the delivery driving point is real and drivers picking up or pulling off could cause, with no space to pull over, could cause significant issues. So sounds like a request for some pickup drop off spaces in the mix of parking that's preserved. Interest in tree, a lot of comments and interest in tree canopy benefits and green strips for supporting runoff issues on the corridor. So in that time, we've got a couple more hand raises. So
Okay.
we have another 10 more minutes. So let's go ahead and Diane, I will unmute you.
And Marta, if I may, just for the people who have called in through their phone line, if you wanted to raise your hand to speak, you can press *3 and we can help unmute you. Just wanted to put that reminder out there.
Thank you, Peyton.
Of course.
I just have a question. There is a lot of anonymous questions and statements on the right-hand side of my screen. And there's somebody by the name of Mozilla. She's been trying to get a response from you all, but no one is selecting these people on that side of the screen. It says anonymous. Do you see that?
I don't,
It's a lot of
I'm not
them.
seeing anything that says anonymous. Under attendees, is that?
It's under questions and answer with Q&A.
Oh, in
And then it has
Slido.
polls.
Okay, thank you very much for calling that out.
Sure.
Peyton, are you able to access Slido?
Thank you, Diane. No, it's telling me that authentication failed. And I'm not able to see Slido. I've tried
Me
refreshing it a few
neither.
times. I assumed it just wasn't working for anybody. I guess if we could take a moment, if you guys can send your questions through the chat function, we may be able to access Slido after the meeting and can respond then, but right now we're having trouble accessing that functionality.
Thank you very much, Diane, for bringing that to our attention. Didn't realize we were at a technical glitch there. So yes, please, if you can transfer your questions into chat, we can do our best to answer a couple of them this evening. And as Peyton said, others that we may not get to, we're certainly happy to follow up.
If you have dialed in by phone, you can hit *3 to raise your hand, and then we can unmute you that way.
So Leah, just responding to your questions, can we see sidewalks of North Capitol and New York Avenue? As Ted had mentioned, our segments for today are really focused on the northern half of the corridor. Future concepts presented at a later meeting in the fall will show more concepts of the corridor, including sections around New York Avenue and other locations that really necessitate traffic analysis. So more to come. Today's segment is a smaller chunk of the corridor, but we absolutely hear you that that is an area for major intervention. It's where we see some of the highest crash rates. So it is very top of mind for this project, but we're just not there yet. So I'm asking you to be a little bit patient with us, and we hope to see you in the fall. Okay. I am loving that we've got a lot of great questions coming in today from Slido. Thank you all for your patience as we work through that. Got an invite to a HACA meeting, HACA. Thank you, Leah. If you can follow up with Ted after this meeting and send some details, his contact information is on the project website. That'd be the best way to coordinate future engagements or presentations to your community group. Rick asking about the slip lane on Florida Avenue and North Cap. Just reiterating, we're going to talk about other intersections that were not presented here in a future meeting. So please stay tuned. I think we have a hand raise from the phone. So let me, oh, I thought we did. And it disappeared.
It's back, Marta. The 2026 number, I've
Yep,
unmuted
raised
you.
hand.
It should give you a prompt to unmute yourself at that point. And we should be able to hear you in just a moment.
While we're doing that, and whoever is coming off, feel free to jump in. But I do see questions about the slip lane at Florida North Capitol. That's something that will be evaluated or presented at the meeting in the fall.
Thank you, Ted.
Yes, it's part of the project.
And it looks like the 62, the number ending in 62 dropped off. I'm not sure
Okay.
if they're just trying to call back in. So if we can just give them a moment just to see. I think they were having trouble unmuting.
Okay, we've got a hand raised from Paul. We'll go to you, Paul, while we read on 202. All right, you can unmute you can unmute Paul.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, my name is Mozella Johnson. I'm using my husband's email process, but I do have a number of questions. One, I need to know if Councilmember Parker is aware of this because I haven't seen anything about this in his newsletters. And two, I heard you speak about the PP parking, but the PP parking is not free. That's a cost. And so I think you really need to think about that. And the other thing is because this area around here, we have to move our cars twice in 1 week from March the 30th, from March the 1st until October. And sometimes we have to park on North Capitol Street because there's no other places to park. And you talk about the foresters and who was handling the trees. It took them 2 years to come and fix a tree that they planted, and they planted crooked, and now the tree is now leaning over onto the sidewalk, and we have yet to get them to come back out to fix that. So now you're talking about putting 100 or so additional trees. So how do you all work with the foresters to make sure that these trees are going to be properly installed and properly maintained when they start encroaching on the sidewalks? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. So the trees, if there's an issue with the tree, we ask you to make a 311 request. If you have, certainly let us know, and we can make sure that our foresters see that. But if you haven't done a 311 request, I'd recommend that you start there. And we've been working with our foresters. We reviewed these plans with them to make sure that they were feasible before we shared them. So our arborists have seen this plan, and they have provided comments, which we've incorporated and will continue to work with them throughout the project. For as a council member, I know that when we did the road safety audit, we did have the council member staff um, uh, did attend those, so I know that they've been they've been aware of this project. I know that we had council member staff also at our last public meeting. So this is a project that's on their radar. So we've been in contact with them. So yeah. So thank you for calling. I'm glad that we were able to get you online. So thanks for joining the meeting today.
And you're welcome. But I do want to say
Sure.
when people are on the phone, somebody needs to keep saying use #3 or pound whatever, so that we will know that that's how we can speak as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for that comment and reminder. Apologies. I will reiterate it. And yes, so if anyone is on the phone, please hit *3 if you'd like to raise your hand. Okay, and I don't see any more hand raises. Couple of comments from residents saying they've seen a post about the project in Councilmember Parker's newsletter, but also that the format has been adjusted, so check your spam inboxes. We do have another hand raise. I will go to Jake, you're back up.
I was just wondering, is this exhaustive? Like, are these the only two options being considered?
I mean, if there is an option or a design that is not being presented today that you think we should consider, we had an earlier caller who mentioned about having 1 or 2 spaces on the block for pickup. That's an example of something that we didn't fully present, but certainly that's something that we're open to hearing. If there's something that we didn't evaluate or an option that we're not presenting that you think we really should consider, you're certainly welcome to provide that comment as well.
Absolutely.
Do you have something in mind that you'd like to bring up?
I guess it's just like with both options, like we went through the parking impact, and there's a slide on the number of spaces eliminated. Is there a mitigation plan? Like, I guess, was that considered as part of this analysis, like how to provide more parking to the residents as these spots are being eliminated?
Yeah, I mean, this project is only looking on North Capitol Street, and I think we need to widen the sidewalks. We can't just keep the existing conditions as they are. I think we've presented why. They just people can't access them if you're in a wheelchair. Even if you're trying to pass somebody, it's really not possible, and they are well below our standards, and we really do need to do something. So doing nothing, I would say, is not really an option. And this project is only looking on North Capitol Street, so we're not making proposals for side streets as far as changing what's there today. So
is that an option as part of this?
I think if you have a specific location that you think we should look at, we can certainly work with we can see what's possible, but our scope is really North Capitol Street, and that's where we're focused on. So as far as looking at other blocks, and I mean, I'm not sure what we would do. A lot of these other blocks already have curbside parking, so I don't know how we would add parking to those blocks. But if there's a specific location that you have in mind, you can certainly let us know, and we can review it and see what's possible.
Great. And what's the best way to follow up with you, Ted?
If you go to the project website, my email address is on the website.
Wonderful. So there's no like proposals for mitigated loss parking, but that could be something considered should we come to you with ideas. So I will I will go ahead and follow up with you on that.
Great.
I'm dropping the project website below. Anyone would like to take another look at some of the materials presented and developed throughout the project thus far. To Jake, your question, and Ted, I think you answered that really well. It's let us know your pain points with some of these concepts. What are the concepts missing? That feedback is really helpful, and our goal is to both iterate on these concepts to get them to another point where they're not final. These are presentations. We're getting feedback, and we'll continue to iterate on them, and hopefully have an update for you in the fall. That is what we're working towards. So certainly welcome your comments in the survey form about where concepts work well, where you think an option 2 is really critical. Again, we're not trying to have every block be different, and we're looking for general consistency and continuity, but there might be certain blocks that necessitate one option over another. So feedback like that, or specific pain points, or additional suggestions are certainly welcomed. With that, I am scanning to see if we are at 8:36. So a little bit over meeting time. We can hang on if there's any other burning questions. I'm not seeing more hand raises in the chat or in the panelist list. And I'm
Also,
looking through the
if
chat.
there's something that we still haven't addressed. If you have a comment that you still feel like we haven't addressed at all, we certainly do want to make sure. We don't want you to sign off without making sure that you felt you had an opportunity to be heard. So now's the time. If we still haven't gotten to your comment or question.
If you post it on Slido, you can call in, or
you can raise your hand,
transfer your chat comment to the chat. If you need to unmute on phone, you hit *3, and that'll get you to the raise hand function where we can bring you off mute.
Also, Jake, I see your hand was still raised. I just lowered it. Had you raised it again, just raise it one more time for us, and I'll take you back off mute. Sorry. I assumed it was old.
Doing another call for anyone on the phone. *3 if you would like to raise your hand.
Well, I will say if you've provided all the comments and questions that you want to today, you're welcome to sign off. These slides are on the website, the survey is on the website, and this recording will be uploaded to the website as well, and on DDOT's YouTube page in the next couple days. So if you have a neighbor who missed this meeting, but you want to make sure that they hear about it, they can certainly catch up on it. And for those of you who are signing off, thank you very much. Thank you for spending your evening with us, and we appreciate your comments and questions. So thank you, and your time. Thank you.
All right. We've got hand raised from Granette.
Okay.
So we'll hang back for a couple
Great.
while others welcome to drop off. So Granette, if you want to unmute.
Hi. Real quick question. Is there any relationship of this project to the North Capitol Deck Overpark project?
So that was proposed as part of phase 1 and evaluated as part of phase 1. Phase 1 came up with some options of how to do the deck over and some cost estimates of what it would cost to do that. Those are on our website. I will say that I do have that. The deck over, there were three options to do that. The cost estimates were kind of between. Let me get to that slide. I did put that in my notes. But in short, this project, all the evaluation and all the cost estimates were done at part of the previous phase. What we're looking at as far as this project is multimodal safety improvements and transportation improvements. So we have what we need for the deck over. This phase of the project is not advancing the deck over further, but we're not saying no to it. If there's any further, and so there's been no decision on whether to move forward with the deck over or not. Any further evaluation or any further decisions would be made in the future phase, but anything that we're proposing as part of this project in this phase would not preclude a deck over being installed in the future.
Okay. So it's still on the table as a possibility, the deck over.
It still is a possibility, but it's not really something that we're discussing or advancing work on as part of this phase.
Okay.
And I do have now. I'm getting to those slides. I do have that. So the cost estimate for the deck over, it was between $44 and $82 million for the blocks between Rhode Island Avenue and T Street. And that depends on design. Basically, that depends on how much we cover. If we fully cover it, we need to provide ventilation because we're in effect building a tunnel. And fully decking it over is much more expensive than an option that has a vent in it where we don't fully deck it over. And there's more information on the website, more on the phase one part of the website. So that's available. And if you have trouble finding it, send me an email and I can send you a link.
Okay, thank you.
Direction. Yep.
Thanks, Renette. Rick, you're welcome to come off mute.
Hey, so you mentioned the cost analysis of the deck over. I was wondering about this, whether it's option one or option two. I haven't gotten a chance to look at all the slides, but do you have a cost analysis for both of those options? What the difference might be, but also whether or not it's budgeted. But are we still kind of looking at best case, or is this something that we can move forward?
So we are presenting draft options. So we're not at the stage where we have cost estimates. When we make a decision as far as what concept design will move forward, we'll also have a cost estimate at that point. So that's something that we'll have in the final. We'll have cost estimates in the final study documents at the end of the year. And as far as budget, we need the cost estimates to be able to kind of
Request. Yeah. Okay. And so then so as I know you're presenting in the fall for concepts that are further south than Florida Avenue. Are you going to be releasing any, drafts or designs or documents before that so that residents might be able to take a look at what the options that are being presented are, and at least maybe we'll come to the call and have kind of been able to formulate an opinion versus I think is this the first time that you're presenting these options on this call, option one versus option two? I feel like having a little bit more time to digest those options might be, or make comments on those options prior to the call might be beneficial to the residents here.
Well, we're still evaluating. We don't want to bring anything to the public that hasn't been vetted. One thing we don't like to do at DDOT is present something to the public and then later say, oh, we can't build this at all. It's not feasible. It has these fatal flaws. And that's part of our evaluation analysis, that when we get to the public, we're presenting something that is at least some level feasible and constructible and possible. So that's part of the work that we're doing now. For today, this is the first time that we're sharing this with residents, these sidewalk concepts. It is not the last time, and today is not the only opportunity that people will provide comments. Like I said, we're looking at coming to community events. We're looking at there's a survey that's up. This will be posted on our YouTube page so people can review this at their leisure or at a time that's most convenient for them if they weren't able to join today. And for the public meeting in the fall, we'll be doing a virtual meeting like we're doing today, and we'll also be doing an in-person open house. So, and we would do, ideally, we'll be doing those at separate meetings. So somebody could come to, the same information will be presented at both meetings, but if somebody wanted to, let's say the virtual meeting, when we get to public meeting 3, let's say the virtual meeting comes first, you would come to the virtual meeting. If you feel like you kind of want to absorb the things at the virtual meeting, you could do that. And then you would come to the in-person meeting, which would happen in a couple of days. And you would have had to attend to the virtual meeting. You could think about what you want to say, and then you could come to that in-person meeting more able to engage at that point. So that's what we're thinking for public meeting 3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Again, if anyone is on the phone, you can hit *3 if you'd like to unmute. Not seeing more comments in the chat. Okay, I think we have answered all questions. I am scanning for additional questions or comments. Not seeing them, so I think we'll look towards adjourning. Want to thank everyone once again for attending. Appreciate you all taking time, a couple of hours out of your time on a Thursday night before holiday weekend, or Tuesday night, I'm sorry, on a holiday weekend to come learn about what we're presenting, and your feedback will significantly help shape improvements for this corridor and your neighborhood. So thank you again. The survey link and QR code is posted on the screen. It is also available in the chat. If you are following our project listserv, that's another way to stay connected and updated with updates on the project. And we very much appreciate your time. So looking forward to continued engagement with you all.
Thank you. Thank you for joining today.